Welcome to Our Voices on the Yard, where Black artistic excellence meets everyday life. I'm your host, Denise Woods. Join me as we explore and celebrate the achievements of the Black artists that attended conservatories and fine arts programs from around the world, starting with my alma mater, the Juilliard School. Hi, this is Denise Woods, and welcome back to Our Voices on the Yard. Today, we have part two of the Stephen McKinley Henderson and Elijah Jones interview. Part one was exceptional. So sit back and just wait for part two. These gentlemen go in, folks. It's wonderful. It's a history lesson. It's a lesson of grace. It's a lesson of just pure artistry. So, enjoy.
As the acting company and the reality of the acting company, because in the first 4 to 5 years, they were building the training to prepare to have an acting company
That's
that could
right.
go around the country. And then Juilliard was ready to take the bow. You see, everybody will bet
Mm-hmm.
on the horse after it crosses the finish line. You
That's
see,
right. Come
there's
on.
a lot of
Yes.
people ready to put their money down when they say, "Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
always knew that was the horse." But before that, there were doubters. And
Yeah.
even that there were haters as well as doubters. But
Mm-hmm.
the acting company came out of the box strong, and the training proved to be good training. And then, as
Mm-hmm.
you say, careers began to occur. you know
Absolutely.
Kevin
Absolutely.
Kline and Patty LuPone.
Patty
and and
LaPone and
and and as these careers occur, and the other thing happened too, which was really the goal. The regional theater movements was strengthened
that's true.
by the actors who came through our training, and they made contributions in training programs. Of course, Mary Lou Rosato and Jared
Mm-hmm.
Saccharin and different people
Mm-hmm.
who were making their contributions in other ways all the way across the board. So Juilliard realized that this too would be a pride, that there was going to be
Mm-hmm.
people that they could hold the Juilliard banner high and say the
Absolutely.
bar did not drop. The bar is still there. So and that's why I rejoice when I hear what Elijah. And I can tell you too, I was quite impressed with the Elijah. The piece we did with during COVID, the Richard. Oh man, and you did some absolutely stellar work there, brother. I was just, it was rocking. And again, we had to talk about the politics. You remember, we had to discuss whether doing having a black man playing Richard II, and whether doing Shakespeare at all, was this really addressing this thing, or are we still lifting another culture by giving our strengths to it? So are you valid here, or and all that's always still the case. But and I think it was a triumph. And I just, like I say, man, when I realized, I said, "Oh, that's the brother you talking about, Denise." Because I'm old, man, and I don't remember everything right away. But then when she said Elijah, I said, "Wait a minute, Elijah John, wait a minute, that's oh yeah, that's that bad brother." Okay, so
Well,
I said,
it's
I
still
just want to
very
make sure you
interesting.
know.
It's still very, very interesting that we are still having this conversation because by the time I came along, Group 8, the eighth graduating class, I entered Juilliard in 1975. I graduated in 79. I was the first African American woman in the company all those years later. And James Moody was Group 1, was the first African American male, and he was not offered major roles. And Keith David and I entered the company. Keith was Oberon, I was Titania. He was Bozzo and Waiting for Godot. I mean, I was Olivia in Twelfth Night. Um, we were offered finally major roles after all of this time, and so that's where this conversation. Um, I'd like to take this conversation is just how we represent ourselves in that classical space. How
Mm,
do we bring our tones and richness and rhythms, vocal rhythms and physical rhythms into the classical space and be proud of it? Um, this is a good segue to come over to you, Elijah, because lots changed in the 50 years, or maybe it hadn't. Let's talk about that. What changed? What didn't? Maybe a lot, some things change and some things stay the same.
Yeah, yeah. As far as in the classical spaces go, and
In the classical space, I want to know how comfortable you felt in the how comfortable you were made to feel in the environment. Was it welcoming by the time you got there? And did they welcome all of you? See, that's the thing. I felt that they were welcoming parts of me, not the entire me. I No one ever said it. It was unspoken that I can't bring all of me to the table. I had to check some of who Denise is at the door. And it seems like by the time you came to the table, Elijah, you were able to bring your full self, culture, background, history, and all to the table.
well, I think no, I think that there were moments of being able to do that, and I think there were moments where I specifically was asked, to like not do that, and I always, I guess, kind of struggled with whether or not that was a part of the training, if that was a part of trying to expand as an actor and do things outside of what I normally would do. But I think there were definitely times in Chekhov specifically where I felt like,
Mm.
I kind of had to play. I felt like I was being asked to play uh a white character, like actually a white character, even though I'm a black man, and so every character I play is ultimately going to be black. I mean, they have to be. That's who I am.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
think that there were certain things, specifically along the lines of speech.
Mhm.
Or specifically a voice class that we were having. We were talking about Chekhov, and the teacher was talking about, um, needing to speak in a standard English, standard American, speech, which I challenged because I was like, well, what is, what is standard American? And I think they've since, gotten away from using that term, but I was like, what is standard American? And also, in term like for Chekhov specifically, it was confusing to me because I'm like, well, these people are Russian, right? So they weren't speaking English at all. They weren't they and so this the idea that we when we're doing Chekhov to have some standard American dialect because that's how they would like I never I never got a clear answer on why exactly we needed to do that. um
Mhm.
and I did it. I did it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this as a challenge, I guess, to myself to just stretch myself. But I just wished, specifically in Chekhov, that there was just a bit more clarity around why it is we need to speak in this particular way. I think with Shakespeare we were able to bring ourselves a bit more, and we're able to interpret characters in different ways that were fun and that were more authentic to who we are as people. Um, but yeah, so because Shakespeare and Chekhov actually are the really big ones, and which
Mhm.
just we just never. I don't know. And I actually when you know at Juilliard they have a checkoff slot, right? And you normally the class gets split up into two different plays, and you know, half the class does one, half the class does another, and I actually ended up being in both plays, and in neither one of them I never really got uh comfortable. I never really was able to be like, oh, okay, this is where I live in this. And I think it was really because specifically just like the vocal, uh, I guess what I would say, restriction around that. But
Mm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do
So
you have anything to add to that, Stephen?
Yeah, I definitely, and I want to say, I love Chekhov. I absolutely, really, there's something more kitchen table about Chekhov for me. There's something about the warmth
Mm.
of the samovar and the warmth of the kitchen in our culture.
Hmm.
So there just seems to be more connection for me with Chekhov than with Shakespeare. But I rejoice in playing anything about the truth of the human spirit. So I don't mind getting to whatever. But where I feel so when I feel that there's progress being made is when there are African American teachers and African American directors. See, that's what we didn't have back then, and so consequently, uh, when Israel Hicks directed a production of Joe Turner's "Come and Gone" at
Hmm.
Juilliard, and it was a triumph. And I was I had something to do with the part of it getting done. I was supposed to be a guest artist. I didn't end up being, but I definitely was helpful in getting Israel doing that show. And see, this goes back to in our time what Amiri Baraka was talking about we are classic people. We are classical people. You can't get more
Hmm.
classical than Africa, man. You can't find nothing more classical than Africa. Okay, so
Hmm.
as language and arts and the mask and dance
Mm.
and all that developed, so we're classical people. So we belong in the classics. But the thing is, it helps tremendously when you can work on your own classics and have them seen and acknowledged
hmm
to be at that standard that can inform humanity of itself.
Yes.
That there are lessons about being human and how to live together that we have always had a part in, and so it makes you less, you know, recalcitrant when somebody's trying to tell you, oh no, I want you to use the ask list of words, or if they try to tell you about the mid-Atlantic speech, you know, some of the mid-Atlantic, and I want to say, man, the middle of the Atlantic is not somewhere I want to talk about. Okay, you don't want to talk to black people about the
Yes.
middle of the Atlantic. All
Yes.
right.
Atlantic.
See, so you know, so where they go from mid-Atlantic to standard English or whatever code words. But I understand if you're going to build an ensemble, if you approach it from the standpoint of the work of art and say we're going to build an ensemble, and in this community these people talk this way who are of this social standing, these people talk this way, and we start to talk
Hmm.
about what the demands of the play is. So as if you're
hmm
doing Cherry Orchard and you know you got a line there, you know, you got to know that.
Yeah.
And but if you're
Hmm.
doing Three Sisters, you're doing that in a certain house. But when a soldier comes in, they could come from anywhere, you know.
hmm
Mm.
So
That's right.
and so
Yes.
so when you get into the world of the play, when you really start talking about the world of the play, but if you're talking culturally, see, if you don't realize, if you got teachers who don't realize that they are speaking about something other than the world of the play, that they are talking about a
Mm.
standard that they think they own, okay? Because you know, white
Yes.
supremacy is not just the ugliness that we know it to be in the woods or in the schools or in a supermarket. Or, you know what I'm saying? It is a it's a thinking, and everybody don't know that they're afflicted by it. So you know you do important work as an artist when you are indeed um, realizing that there's only one race, and to understand that this is a cultural thing we're talking about. If you can get to that and understand what the
Mm.
cultures are, what the ethnicities are, and what the cultures are, but we really earthlings. And I mean, this is just me on in the pulpit now, so I'm not trying to make this be something that everybody's supposed to know
Yes.
or be with. but there's a human race. And the medical profession betrayed something when they joined the slave masters and said, okay, we're going to say that this brain is small, and we're going to say that we're going to go along with this race thing, and we're going to make it easier for you to enslave a people, or to destroy the Native Americans. Or we're going to make it easier because we're going to say that this is that. But as soon as they got to where they needed to transplant a liver, transplant a heart to stay alive, and they were saying, oh, you can take that black man's liver, you can take that black man's heart, you can experiment on these black people in South Africa to figure out how to do a heart transplant. And then they started to understand, well, now we got to stop talking this thing about that we're so different and all that change. So, and like I say, I have to witness for this, because this is the truth that I had to learn to keep my sanity. I had to learn this so I could say, well, why do I love to play these characters? Why do I read this literature and say, oh, I understand something about that human being, even though they're in a whole other culture, right? And I would say, so it is right that I should understand that human being. It's all right for me to understand that human being who happens to be in another culture. But it is very important that they understand my culture and what they can learn about being a human being from Joe Turner's Come and Gone, and from Piano Lesson, and from it is crucially important. And that's why I say, like Lynn Nottage and her contribution that with Ruined, and with you know, I mean, oh man, her work, and Sweat. And what was the one that Viola did about the seamstress? That one is, what's the the play? Intimate Apparel.
Intimate Apparel.
Look at the genius of that title.
Yes.
Look at the genius of that. And to read that play and to understand what it is about being human. So that's why I rejoice in our culture. And I do think, and I'll say this and I'll be through, is that the one thing you can get from a Juilliard experience is to understand the height of what artistic contribution can be, and how important it is to society, to the public, to our growth, to our expansion as earthlings, that we should get to know art and understand art and all these cultural things. And so it's righteous. When I see you doing that piece, Elijah, I'm telling you, because I say, man, if I'd have stayed at Juilliard, I might be as good as that brother right there doing that work. I might be able to rock it like he does, man, and like Andre's rocking it now. You know,
he was rocking it. Certainly, without a doubt, rocking that thing.
You know, I thought of immediately Derek Walcott and Wole Soyinka, and all of these amazing, playwrights that we could have had in the Juilliard curriculum. And will have, and that's what and the Juilliard curriculum does have. I mean, that's what this 50 years.
Yeah, I've seen it. That's what I rejoice in that growth. I rejoice in that growth. I really do. To see the plays, the playwrights, the directors, and the faculty that are there.
I just want to take a moment to extend my heartfelt well wishes to the community of Buffalo, because I know that that's where you're from, Stephen, and we spoke about it just shortly after the atrocity happened, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge you, your family, your community, our community at large. So if you just want to speak a moment.
Oh yeah, well, I'm sitting here now, coming from Buffalo. I'm not originally from this town. I've been here for 30 plus years, and it was a hard hit that it took, but we do. I agree with you that it becomes America's city when something like this happens. To have someone come into a supermarket at 2:00 on a beautiful day, or between 1 and 2 on a beautiful day, and do something like that, it's a long time that it'll be healing, but it's America that this is happening to. And I say the same thing about the town in Texas. I mean, my goodness, those babies. I heard the story of a young lady who had to smear herself with blood from her friend and lay still and climb out. That I think of her I think of her,
Yes.
and I think
We
of the
all,
grandmother here in Buffalo asking to just let me live at her at
Mhm.
that age, and to see it's a time. That's why we have questions about the arts and about what we need to be doing at a particular time, and understanding that even though there are plays that have timeless messages from the Greeks and from
Yes.
Shakespeare and from Chekhov and from Shaw and Ibsen and Strindberg and all, but there's a time that you got to tell your story.
Yes.
America's got to tell its story. America has got to tell its story. You can't ban books and not ban guns. You can't
Mm.
not tell the your own history and then make up imaginary facts. So, but our brother's back. But yeah, I thank you for saying that about the city of Buffalo. But
Yes.
we weep and we offer condolences to Buffalo, and we offer condolences for America.
Yes. As do we. Just want to get a little bit more of your thoughts, Elijah, on you being the beneficiary of the 49 years that came before you. Did you feel
Absolutely.
it? Did you feel it? Did you know it?
I definitely felt it, and I think where I felt it most was actually that very first weekend that you, Denise, actually put together with Brittany Bradford, if I'm not mistaken. Um, when we had so many alum come back, black alum specifically, and to get to speak and hear their stories. James Moody was one of them, and Keith David, and Wendell Pierce, and Lisa Gay Hamilton, and Lisa Arndale. There were just so many people who came and talked.
And Stephen was there as well.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, Stephen. Oh my goodness, because I
Mhm.
had and then we had the 50th anniversary celebration, and to stand on stage with you was also incredible. And I mean, it was it just made me feel so grateful for all the groundwork that was laid.
Mm.
I think it was very very evident uh, when I got there, honestly, and it was all courtesy of that one specific weekend, and getting to hear you all stories, getting to speak to y'all, and get advice from you all, so that when we traverse these 4 years, there was so many times where I could reflect back on that weekend, and
You mentioned one of my favorite artists, man. When you say Lisa Gay Hamilton, man,
oh my,
she
yes,
is a powerful sister,
Mm.
and
Mm.
she got a story, and she witnesses to this. I say this touched my heart so. And she's such a great artist. Please give her my
She's
love and
next up. I
enduring
will.
respect
I
and
will.
affection. Enduring.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh yeah.
But gentlemen, I want to just thank you for this maiden voyage, if you will, because it's important. It's not just the drama division. We're starting out with the drama division, but we've got dancers, we've got black musicians. We have black musicians because we started the drama division in the 60s, but we have African American, African Caribbean musicians that were there in the 30s
Mm.
and did wonderful work in HBCUs around the country, and had wonderful careers as opera singers and stars of the European stages. And we want to explore that world too. So we're talking about Black excellence at its finest.
mm,
And we're also talking about, and I thank you, gentlemen, for really getting into the real nitty gritty of the not so beautiful, poignant essence and the elements, essentially, of an institution like Juilliard. It can be dark sometimes, but wherever there's dark, there's light. The light really does shine out the dark. And I think unequivocally, that experience for most of us is the experience that the light really did shine out, just canceled out the dark days, because there were several for a myriad of
Yeah.
reasons.
No,
But we can unequivocally say that the light really shone in our spirit, because as artists, that's what we were there for. That's what we were there to do. And we continue to do that by telling our stories.
Yes, yes.
I
Thank
just
you
want to
so
thank you.
much. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for doing this,
My
Denise.
pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It, to be continued. I'd love to come back, and I'd love for us to sit in Juilliard. I'd love for us to have a second go round at
Mm.
what we did that weekend, an
Oh,
alumni weekend.
Yeah,
Come
absolutely.
back.
yeah,
I
yeah.
want to have
Yeah.
it every single year because I think that was just so pivotal, for my beginning journey. And I wish, that the classes behind me could get that same thing because it honestly, I think for me, it just shifted me into a whole different gear. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Any last thoughts? Last thoughts before we go.
Well, there's
Elijah,
always going to
final
be a
thoughts.
reason that they're going to be young people who will be going through that program, who are in the middle of their training, and they're going to think, "Oh my God, man, nobody's ever felt this. Everybody's ever been through this. What they're sending me through," and we got to be there to let them know, no, this too shall pass, and the
Absolutely.
whole journey is bittersweet. And it's bitter for a moment, but it can be sweet for a lifetime. The
Yes.
career you have after
Mm,
these muscles are built, because you're going to be building some muscles here, but it's
Hmm.
not about this little time you here. You just here for a little time. It's going to last, but this is this, and some is bitter, but it's bitter for a moment, but it's sweet for a lifetime. If you get all you can get and journey on, soldier
Yeah.
on, journey on. Don't let the what I mean. You know what I'm talking about.
I
Yeah,
know exactly. I
yeah,
know.
don't let the boogeyman,
yeah.
shatter your
And don't
dream.
let the Jones
You
get you
just,
down.
just,
Yeah, go ahead. Tell them, Elijah.
yeah.
I mean, it's a that's really what I took away from Juilliard, because I had a lot of those moments. I had a lot of those moments where I was in it and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, should I really be like, is this, do I really want to get up again at 9 in the morning and stay till 9 and 10 at night? But it is a marathon, and Juilliard really instilled that in me, and I'm grateful to Juilliard for that, because now being on the other side, and just the beginning of being on the other side, I feel that I'm like, okay, all right, I never ran a marathon, but I imagine that is parts of the marathon, when you're in the middle of it and you asking yourself, why am I doing this again? And you got to be real clear on what that why is in order to get to the end of the marathon. But Juilliard helped me get really clear on what that why is. And I am so excited to be in the marathon with the both of y'all and with all of the individuals who came before me and the people who are going to come after me. But yeah, just stay in it.
Yeah. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
Just stay in it. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen McKinley Henderson, and Elijah Jones. Group 1, Stephen McKinley Henderson. Group 50, Elijah Jones. I'm Denise Woods, Group 8 of the Drama Division at the Juilliard School, saying thank you. If you liked this, like us, and send a review. Tell us how we did. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Love you.
Love you.
Love you too.
All right,
Bye.
bye.
Thanks so much for spending time with us. Come back next week for part 2. You want more? Find us on whatever podcast platform you use. Subscribe and leave us a review. Thanks a lot. See you next time.